Hey guys, you're watching the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all across the country. And a lot of you are looking for how you can find new patients without spending a ton more. Well, today I've got one of my good friends who's an expert on this, and we are going to uncover how to double your new patients without more marketing with Dr. Chris Phelps. Do not miss this. Do me a favor, grab a pen and hit the share button. We'll see you in a second. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show. Thank you so much for watching. I am having so much fun doing this, and we have so many great guests lined up here in the next couple of weeks. Keep sending us suggestions for topics, and today is no exception. We've got a great topic coming to you. So, couple show notes before we get rolling here. And get into the topic and all the content that we're going to discuss today is we are shooting this live on Facebook. So as you're watching this, if you have questions, feel free to add them to the feed, and I'll ask Dr. Phelps himself while he's on the show. Or if you're watching this later on, continue to add your questions to the feed, because we want to make sure you get the most out of this. And also, too, I love the iTunes feedback we're getting. Over 30,000 if you found us on iTunes. I don't even know how that happened, but keep watching and keep listening and keep giving us feedback, and we'll keep posting them there. So if you haven't had a chance to see them, there's a ton on there, and the whole first season is on there. So check it out there, and more to come on season number 2. So my guest today has been a friend of mine for quite a while now. As I was looking at changing some of the ways that we do things at ACT Dental and our coaching process, we were looking for experts that really understood how the phones work and marketing and data and analytics. And a couple of years ago, I was introduced to you by Dr. Brian Smith, who you went to dental school with, and he's like, you got to check out Dr. Chris Phelps. What he's done is amazing. On just the analytics side of things, and just how you had 4 offices at one time, and just how to grow them really, really fast in a very predictable fashion. So you and I also are, we go through the same coaching program, which is Strategic Coach, and have a lot of friends in common. But if people don't know who Dr. Chris Phelps is, can you just give us a little background on who you are, where you're from? You're also a speaker and an author. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, general dentist from Greensboro, North Carolina. I always thought my life's goal ever since the 7th grade was to be a dentist. That's when I made the decision, if you will. And lo and behold, now I realize that actually I'm an entrepreneur who happens to be a good dentist. Mm-hmm. And kind of realized that as my career has gone on, and first in dental school, and then ever since I've been out of dental school. One of my passions is just startups, starting new businesses, or turning ones around, and growing them. And I like to grow quickly. I don't like things to get in my way, and I like to figure out ways around them if they try. And I've just had a lot of good experiences. I joke I've been in practice for over 14 years now, and I swear to God, there's probably no situation in dentistry that has occurred that I haven't gone through.
Right.
That hasn't been made, that I haven't made myself. I've been there. And if I can help people not do that, that would be great. Shorten their curve. So.
Yeah. And just a little story about you. We told this story last time, but I love this story about you. You're one of those guys that makes it complex very simple. You even did this in dental school. You would take courses and write the cliff notes and give them to the other students, and they loved it. They would consume it. That was your first business, I think. It was. Fresh out of dental school. And I have a lot of guys that read your notes. They're like, yeah, it got me through dental school.
Yeah, the top 2% of the class hated me because I blew the curve out of the water. So I made them work very hard to get to the top of the class, which was funny. So.
That's awesome, buddy. That's awesome. Now, you and I were talking before we went live. There are 7 steps you can do without spending literally any money on marketing. You can grow a practice pretty fast. And this is no joke. Like, this is not a ploy. This is not a false promise. You can literally double your new patients if you do all 7 of these. And we're going to take them apart one at a time. But Chris, why is this topic so important? Because dentists are confused. There's a lot of information coming at them, but why is the new patient conversation so important to have a really clear mindset before you get started as a dentist in private care? Why is this so important?
Well, no, first and foremost, new patients are the lifeblood of any practice, right? It's the catalyst for growth in any business, is to have more customers. Number two is because we're getting more and more competition pressure from not only ourselves as colleagues, more and more dentists coming out of school, but also corporate dental groups and some of these other groups, like the CEO of Supercuts says he's going to open up a Supercuts of dentistry with 3 price levels for everything that we do.
Really?
Spread it throughout the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got dental insurance companies that are buying dental offices and owning dental offices now. They own them now. So we're getting all this weird competition pressure that we never thought of or never had to experience before. And the fact that more and more people are in network, right? So you got more people fighting for the same slice of the same pie. And that slice is getting cutting up smaller and smaller the more people that are joining. I remember when dentists would get, 100 new patients a month from being in network with the dental insurance company. Now they're signing up for 10 plans and they're not getting any new patients as a result, because everyone in their area is on the same plan, right? They're all fighting for the same little small piece of the pie, which is not good. And so we need to figure out a way predictably to get more new patients in to grow.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it doesn't include writing a monster check to a marketing firm that's going to create Facebook ads for you and a great website and all that kind of stuff. Would you agree?
Definitely. There's no one thing out there that's going to get you 100 new patients, but there's a ton of things you can do that can add 5 or 10 more every month, consistently, predictably, but without you having to spend a lot of money to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive into all 7 of them. And as we were discussing this, I'm like, this is absolutely spot on. And it's what we teach in our coaching program too. And so if you're watching this, please take notes, because we're going to go through all 7 of them. But what's the number one problem that prevents dentists from getting new patients in their offices on a daily basis?
Well, for me, it's the plague or an epidemic that's across our whole industry. And it comes down to a very simple fact. Most of our clients, our offices, our dentists, myself included, are unable to answer the new patient phone calls. We're literally not picking up the phone.
Okay, wait. No. If I'm working in a dental office, you've heard this 100 times. Oh, yeah. We get all of them. We get all of them. I've been doing this for 20 years. I get every new patient phone call. Yep. But is that true?
It's not true. And I always tell people, I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anyone that wants to prove me otherwise. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, why aren't we answering the phone calls? Because, again, I track these things for dentists all over the country, not only in the U.S., but Canada and the U.K., Australia. It's the same problem around the world, okay? And it's really not anybody's fault. It's a consequence of what's going on. So our team, they think they're answering them, but think about it. Some dentists tell me, they're like, oh, well, I got 100 phone lines because I got voice over IP. So, of course, we can answer every call. And I tell them, yeah, doc, but let's do the math on this. How many people do you physically have answering the phone? Well, 2. Well, how many phone systems do you have that they can pick up and answer? Well, 2. So how many phone lines do you really have? 2. Okay, right? So there's a false sense of security there. From the team standpoint, they do believe that they're answering every phone call. And for as far as they know, they're right? Because the real problem is they don't even know they're missing them. Right. And even if they did, could we trust them to tell us that they were? Right. Mm-hmm. Is it human nature to shoot yourself in the foot? No. Right. So if what team member would say, well, doc, sorry, I didn't answer 25 new patient calls last month. Sorry about that. My bad.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen. Right. But the reality is it's truthfully not their fault. Because if you think about it, at any given time, think about all the things our team has to do at any given moment. Right. Confirm appointments. On hold with the insurance company for 20 minutes. Verify benefits. They have to check in the existing patient. They have to check out the existing patient, right? As I always say, there's no one more important than the new patient on the telephone to grow. But at the same time, there's no one more important than the existing patient standing in front of you trying to make their next appointment or pay their bill today, right? So we got to service the people and take care of the people we do have. So what do you do when the phone rings and the existing person's staring you in the face and you don't want to be rude, okay? There's 1,000 things they're doing that they just can't help. Then, for any given moment, there are 2 existing patients calling in, and for one new patient calling in, trying to make an appointment for your phone. So that's why we're seeing right now the average missed call rate is about 1/3. They're not answering 1/3 of their new patient phone calls from marketing sources.
All right, I want you to take that apart too, because I want to go a little bit deeper in that. And I also do want to say what you just piggyback on what you said. You know, if you're a team member who answers the phone, I don't want you to feel bad. And as a dentist, if you're watching this, don't not give. It's just the nature of the game. There's a lot going on, and team members that are answering the phones, they are doing their best to manage all this. They really are. But when you say a third, take us into that. So a third of all phone calls made in the United States to dental offices, only a third of them are answered. Is that what you're saying?
For new patient calls. Yeah. And what I'm finding is it's dependent on how much money you're spending in marketing. Because if you're spending $2,000 or less, meaning nothing in marketing, it's about a third. You're not answering a third of your new patient phone calls. If you're spending more than $2,000, it actually rises as high as 55% of the calls.
Wow.
Half the calls you paid to get, we're not picking up the phone for.
Wow. And why are they not being answered? Can you introduce a couple reasons other than what you've already shared?
Yeah, and sometimes, they're calling when, most dentists think that they're calling when they're not open. Oh, they're calling at night, they're calling on the weekends when we're closed. But the truth is, based on our data, 99% of the calls we miss are while we're open during business hours, okay? Doing all those tasks and duties. Sometimes if it's during business hours, we're missing a lot of calls during lunch. I mean, my office used to be like a ghost town from 1 to 2 p.m. Nobody was there. But guess when patients like to call? When they get back from their lunch, which is at 1 o'clock.
Right.
So sometimes it's just simple as that, just staggering your schedule to make sure there's always someone to cover the phone during business hours.
Yeah. And so 2 lessons that you taught me is, number one, you track all this data. You want to know the peak times in which people are actually calling your office. Don't guess. You need to know those times. And then you also gave me this quote years ago, data doesn't lie. It's unemotional. So when you know how many new patient calls you get, now you can actually have a discussion, correct?
That's it. And I like to say, let the data justify the next expense.
Right.
So if you've got one person at the front desk and the data shows you're missing a lot of new patient calls, well, to me, that justifies paying them somebody else to be there, paying for a second person. It's time to invest in another team member, So at least if you don't want to be there on a Friday, that's fine, but invest and have the team member there to answer the phones.
Yeah, and absolutely. Now, the other thing that data introduces is you can get mad sometimes looking at the data, but we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking. I love how you coach team members. We're looking for what?
Progress.
So if it's only being answered a third of the time, think about this. If you're a dentist watching this and you're at a third, what if you went to, a half? How much more would that add to your feed on a regular basis as far as new patients go? It'd be dramatic, wouldn't it?
I mean, from the average office, it's 5 or 10 more new patients a month right there.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you also taught me about this, the lifetime value of a patient. Well, in the first year, what's the first year value of a patient to a dental practice typically from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, of course, this varies depending on your services and what you offer, but on average, it's about $1,000 in the first year.
Right. So you're talking about, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. When you're talking about the phone. So answering the phone is number one. You want to know how many calls you're getting, what are the peaks times, and are we answering the phone calls? And you can do that a lot through technology now. Now, number two, what's number two when it comes to, once you answer the call, what's the second piece?
The next logical thing that we tend to overlook is, did we make an appointment?
Right.
If we schedule more appointments, right? We're going to get more new patients in the door. And, I've heard a lot of people quote, the average conversion rate nationwide is around 34%. And I'm kind of seeing that my average call tracker client is averaging around 41%. So it's not good. It's not a majority. Okay. And there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Right. Now, I'm not good at math, but if only a third of your phone calls are being answered and only a third of them are being converted, you can see there's a huge lost opportunity here. And tell us about the lost opportunity costs.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you had 100 potential new patients call your practice this month, you didn't answer a third of the phone calls, and you only scheduled a third of the people you talked to, you saw 22 people when you could have saw 78 more.
Right.
At $1,000 each, that's a lot of potential revenue thrown out the window.
Yeah, let me subtract 78 and 22, that's 6, that's $56,000 in lost opportunity. So you'll have to go slow with me on the math here. So now, when it comes to scheduling better and conversion better, what are some other things as a team or as a dentist, if I'm watching this, that I need to be aware of? What are some of the key things that you guys notice when you're auditing these phone calls and paying attention to new patients calling a dental office?
Well, the problem really is coming from two areas. Number one, it's that our patients that are calling are putting up obstacles or barriers to scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And our team doesn't recognize what that barrier is or the mindset behind that patient. And so they don't have the right strategy to tackle it. And so in essence, what happens is the phone call ends without an appointment. The other side of the coin is that the barrier to scheduling is coming from our own teams, not from the patient. Our teams are putting up the barrier or hurdle for patients to scheduling, and that's pushing them away as well. So it's kind of an intermixed balance. And in some offices, it's one or the other, and many it's both.
Yeah. I heard this years ago from Linda Miles, and it's been supported throughout all these years. She said when she would watch new patient phone calls, 60% of the time, the team member never asked the patient to make the appointment. Do you find that to be the same type of data?
Definitely. It's like you almost forget that's the priority. And it's like an afterthought. And at the end of the call, when it's time to ask, either they're out of time or they're done, or I got to check my schedule. I'm going to call you later.
Right. What's your favorite? Now, I'll give you mine. Mine is, let's get you scheduled. That's my favorite. Or let's do this. I'm going to set up an appointment. What's your favorite way to just fix number two if you were going to give a quick fix?
Well, the first thing is people need a choice. Right. That's the things we talk about with the science of influence and persuasion. If you didn't really give them a choice, well, guess what? They didn't really commit to it. And if they didn't commit to it, they're not likely to follow through with it and show up for that appointment. Because it's not only one thing to make the appointment, wouldn't we like them to show up too?
Right.
Great.
Right.
So we can combine both by giving them a choice that sets the stage for success. So just a simple, Marriott was the first people back in the day to come out with this concept of the two opportunity. What works best for you this week or next week, morning or afternoon, 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And every time you're giving them two choices, you're still funneling them down to where you have an open appointment, but you're giving them a choice every step of the way. When I talk to people, they think when they say, okay, Mrs. Jones, can you do Tuesday at 2? Nope, can't do that. Thursday at 4? Can't do that. Okay, Friday at 8? Okay, I guess I could do that. And I'd ask the team member, I'd say, well, did you give them a choice? And they said, yeah, I gave them 3 options. And I said, no, not really. You gave them one choice, you dictated it to them. They said no, you gave them another dictation. They said no, and you gave them another one. Right, well, the funny thing is, with the science of reciprocity, people hate to say no to you. More importantly, people hate to say no to you multiple times in the same moment. So if you keep asking for something, they're going to say yes eventually. Yeah. They're still not guaranteed to show up.
Yeah.
Right? So give them choices, and they're choosing every step of the way.
Yeah. And when you say choices, it doesn't always mean, because sometimes people can change this and they'll say, well, does that mean morning and evening? That doesn't mean morning and evening. It just means 2 choices of available times, because sometimes team members see that. They'll say, do you like mornings or evenings to a patient? And that's not what you're talking about.
No.
So
whatever your options are, whatever your available times are, right? Give them choices that funnel them down to those.
Right, right. So you want to make sure your conversions are extremely high. And a lot of this just goes with training and having the right mindset. I'm a big believer of what Fred Joyal said years ago. You got to believe that money spent in your office is some of the best money people could ever invest. And that's a fundamental mindset that the team member that's answering the phone has to have. And they got to believe and be ready for that phone call, right?
Definitely, definitely.
Absolutely. Now, we talked about number 3, and we introduced this. I think in your marketing right now, if you're going to double your new patients, this is non-negotiable. It is a current, staple in all of your business building processes. You have to have Google reviews, non-negotiable. Would you agree?
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, Google rules the world.
Yeah.
That's one of those authority triggers that that people trust. They look to for evidence on what they should do. And if they see that, wow, 100+ people have said nice things about this place versus the other dental offices that are listed here where 3 people said something nice and 2 said something bad, which am I going to choose? Right. Because ultimately, that's how people make their decisions. They compare and contrast things in the moment. What are they looking at?
Yeah. Yeah. And these are trends that we're seeing. We were talking about this beforehand. Some of the best restorative docs I've worked with for 20 years, they call me and they say, this is so weird. It's so different, because 75% of my patients used to come from referrals, and it's now like 50% of them are coming from Google reviews, where they might have heard my name and then they look it up and then they call and then we ask and they'll say, I looked at your name on Google. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Left unfocused in this area, you're going to get people that will leave Google reviews, but it will often be not the people that are thrilled with your services. It's going to be the people that aren't thrilled with your services. I was talking to a car place the other day, and they had 66 Google reviews, 2.8 Google rating. I told the guy, I said, I don't think I've ever seen a Google rating that low. He's like, I know. And you could tell they're not asking for reviews, but you have a system within your business. And anything else that you would say, if somebody's watching this and not collecting Google reviews, how can they start collecting Google reviews?
Well, the first thing is to try to make it simple as possible for the patient. Number one, don't forget to ask.
Right.
Provide great service. And when you hear things that the patient says like, oh, wow, I can't believe we're done already, or wow, what a great visit today, or I always like seeing you guys. Whether you realize it or not, what they're telling you is you've given them a gift of value that they really appreciated. Mm-hmm. And they're thanking you for that gift. Well, there's actually a moment of power there. If you then turned around in that moment and said, well, my pleasure. We love having you as our patient. Hey, would you mind doing a Google review for us? Sure, of course. Great. Pull out your phone. Let me show you how to do it. Mm-hmm. Have them do it right there. You know, as long as they're not on your Wi-Fi network and they're on their own cellular network, they can post their review and Google will count it, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. So if you're not doing this, this is absolutely critical. You have to start doing this tomorrow. Ask for Google reviews. Now, number 4, one of the biggest barriers to getting more new patients is the insurance barrier. And this is a really, really big deal. Can you tell us what the insurance barrier is?
Yeah, it's the difference in mindsets between the patient who's calling your office and asks, do you take or accept my insurance? Versus the patient who specifically asks, are you in network with my insurance?
Oh.
And what I've been finding through listening to thousands of phone calls is these are two very different people. Mm-hmm. The problem is our teams are, because they're not trained, are hearing them as one person, the same person. Okay. And so they're hearing somebody say, do you take or accept my insurance? And telling them, sorry, we're not a network. And my thought is, and I've proven this, that 80% of the people who ask, do you take or accept my insurance, have no idea what their insurance is, what it means. It is not a barrier for them. But our team makes it a barrier. Okay, This is one of the things I was talking about the team making it a barrier. Because they've had a bad experience in the past, or they just didn't have a good system to handle somebody, the other 20%, right? Who might have been an issue or was just confused. And so people ask me, they're like, well, how are you so confident to say that 80% of people don't care or don't even know what their insurance is? Because we all think it's about the insurance. Mm-hmm. And I said, because it's what they say when I hear them on the phone calls. When they say, we're not in network, sorry. And the patient says, oh, well, what does that mean? I can't go there? Nope, sorry. Call your insurance company. Thanks. Click. Right? It's right. You'll know. And they're confused. It's not a barrier. And we're the ones making it a barrier for the majority of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, are you in my network? Because you have some pretty good thought processes on that. If I'm a dentist watching this, what are the things that I need to know about that question?
Well, for one, obviously, we're going to tell them the truth, right? If we're not in network, which I'm not in my practices with anyone, we have to tell them that. You know, we can't lie. So, but there's a way that you can change the strategy and influence them to set the stage. It's not going to work on the majority because these people have made a commitment, and that's what the consistency principle is all about. Commitments are very powerful, and it's hard to get people to change their mindset if they make one. So that person who's asking, are you in network, has made the commitment that they have to go to someplace that's in network, right? So really, you only got about a 1/3 chance to schedule that person. Okay, 2/3 you're not going to schedule because they've made that commitment, and that's okay. The 1/3 who do, right? What we tell them is, look, we're not in network, but you know what? We have hundreds of patients just like you who have that same insurance but choose us anyway, and here's why. And you give them all the pros about why it's good to come to your practice. Okay, so you've told them, I'm not in network, but there's plenty of people just like you that chose us anyway, and here's why.
Right.
And if you use that, about 1/3 of the time, you'll get those patients to schedule.
Right. And predictably, when people come in based on trust and they come in and you really make a deep connection with them in the first appointment, those are people that are going to reach into their pockets and spend the money or invest the money in discretionary care above and beyond what maybe their network, you know, their contracted insurance will provide. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And many of them have probably had a bad experience with their in-network dentist somewhere.
Right.
So they've anchored themselves to that experience and they don't care about the insurance anymore. Now it's not important to them. They want a better experience. They want a better service. They want a better whatever.
Right. I think the important thing too, because there's a lot of people out there giving advice on this, is you can't mislead the patients. If you're not truly a provider within their network, there are people that out there just say, get them in, and then mislead the patients. And then obviously that's where you can create a lot of, you can create a big barrier in trust and a lot of upset patients in that whole process. So insurance can be a big deal. The other thing I would just want to introduce on number 4 here is this, is sometimes team members, you get to audit these phone calls, and we listen to them too. Team members use the word insurance 5 times on a new patient phone call. You know, I have found that the less you use that word, the less the patient makes it an important variable. Would give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 phrases you will never hear in my practice are in network and out of network, number 1. And number 2, when we're on the telephone, we don't even talk about the insurance until the appointment's made. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. They're calling for a reason. Let's make the appointment, right? Get them over their mindset barrier or whatever. Then we'll find out if they have insurance information, because we're going to maximize it as best we can.
Right. And the big deal is not to uncover all the details or go into the weeds when it comes to what their insurance is going to cover and won't cover. The whole idea is to let them know, honestly, this is where it is, and then let's set up the appointment. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, right?
Yep.
Okay. Number 5, to double your new patients, and you and I totally agree on this, is the price shopper question. This kills a lot of opportunity. Tell us what the price shopper question is.
Yeah, I mean, for most offices, they're converting less than 20% of the price shoppers into patients. Okay. And it's sad, because actually, if you can get them over this mindset barrier and get them into your practice, they're actually really great quality people and great quality who will spend money in your practice. The problem is, again, and go back to the price, we got to trace it back to the root cause and the source. Why are we getting so many price shoppers? And the reality is, it's because of the advice we've been getting in the marketing world for our offer, our call to action. And it's the $99 new patient special, which is now the $79 new patient special, which in another market I looked at when I was in Houston recently was a $59 special. It's that race to the bottom. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when every dentist advertisement out there, most patients are getting 10 to 20 new dental marketing pieces every month from prospects. Okay. Wow. And every one of them say the exact same thing. There's no differentiators there. The patients have no way to judge us except for one, our price. We're a commodity to them now. Now it's a 99-cent cheeseburger. I can get that over here, or here. Either way, I'm going to get a cheeseburger. Okay. So that's why they're calling. Well, if it's about the price, then a crown is a crown is a crown. So how much is your crown? I'll just go by that. How much is your extraction? I'll go by that. Mm-hmm. So they've made that commitment that it's about the price in that moment because of what we've done and led them down that path because of that. So if we can get them over that barrier and get them over that price barrier on the telephone and get them in by eliminating the barrier, they're going to be great patients and they're going to pay your full fee.
Okay, so every dental office in the United States gets this call every single day, which is, how much are your crowns? Help me through that one.
Well, think about it. Think about this. What's the barrier if it's about the price, right? So most people, if they lose them on when the team says, well, the exam is $59, the FMX is going to be $150. You know, if you need a crown, it's going to be $1,200, but you might need a root canal. There's going to be another $800 there. We might have to take the tooth out and do an implant. There's $2,000. So what you don't realize is that every number you throw at the person on the telephone, they're adding up in their mind, even if they have no business being added up or related. So the patient's sitting there thinking, geez, it's $4,000 to go there. I can't go there.
Right.
What they really want to know is, what's my problem and how much is that going to cost me to get it fixed? So one of the simplest things we can do is just get rid of the price barrier. I'm not a big fan of offering a free exam and x-ray to anyone except the price shopper.
Okay, tell us why. Why?
Because it's about the price for them. They've made that mindset commitment. So if that's the barrier, the price to come in and find out what their problem is, let's just get rid of the barrier. Okay. So I will offer them, hey, I'll tell you what, come on in. We'll get you a complimentary exam and x-ray. You'll know exactly what's going on, exactly what your treatment's going to be and how much it'll cost from that point before we do anything. Does that work for you? Great. What works best for you, today or tomorrow? The morning or afternoon, and you go right into it.
Absolutely. Get them in. That way you can build a value, make a connection, help them understand why you're different,
Yes.
Because what's going to happen on the other side of it is when people say, this is crazy because it does happen in great practices, we'll even call great practices, and people will offer up the crown fee. They'll go, well, my crown fee is $9.95, or we send ours to China, so ours is $6.95. So it's or overseas, whatever. And I don't want to make light of that or because that is a very, very big deal or make too much fun of it. But this is an important thing that your team has to understand is really why are they asking the question in the first place, and then helping them through the barrier of that. Do you find this if you volunteer price on the phone, most cases you're going to lose right away? Is that true or not true?
I'd say it definitely is.
Okay.
Yep. And the problem is, again, it's two mistakes. Number one is that we think the patient understands what they need, which is why they're asking the question.
Right.
We're assuming that they understand their dental care and they know what they need. Or we're assuming that we know what they need.
Right.
And usually in both cases, we're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How many times does a patient come in and says, I need a price on a crown? They come in and the tooth's broken off. They can't get a crown.
Right.
We got to stop judging what this person's telling us and assuming that either we know what they need or they know what they need. Nobody does, right? If they're calling for an extraction, we can't quote them an extraction fee because how do we know they don't have a pedo tooth?
Right.
We gave them the wrong fee. How do we know they even need an extraction?
Mm-hmm.
We don't. So get rid of that mindset altogether.
Right. And a simple way to diffuse this, if you're a team member and this is just too complex, is just ask questions, because the person that's asking the question is often controlling the conversation, and it's going to present you as an expert. Because if people say, hey, look, how much is your crown? Say, Mrs. Jones, have you been told by a dentist that you actually need a crown? And can you tell me a little bit more about why you asked that question? There's a lot of different types of crowns. Do you know which kind of crown, that you need? And people are going to pause and say, well, and you could authentically say to them, there are maybe many cases where you don't need a crown, but here's what I can do is I can put you with our doctor, Dr. Phelps. He's amazing, and we can cross that bridge together.
That's it.
Really, the bottom line here, Chris, is you want to give them an opportunity, reduce as many barriers as possible, and get them to meet you in the office. Agree?
That's it.
Which leads us to our next one, which is going to be number 6, is capacity. Capacity is a very big deal on a lot of different fronts. Now, describe this, because a lot of people can grow dental practices just by growing their capacity, but that isn't always the best way to do it. Describe what capacity is for the average dentist that might be watching this.
Well, the way I look at it, there's doctor side and there's hygiene side. But what I'm finding through our tracking clients is people are calling, trying to get into your office, and you can't get them in in a reasonable amount of time, either a decent amount of time or when the patient needs to get in, like a specific amount of time. So you have no leverage. You have no room in your schedule to accommodate anyone. So one of my most popular marketing messages is we advertise, call today, get in today. Right? Because I know that one of the barriers patients are having calling everyone's offices is they can't get in anywhere. But they see my message, call today and get in today? Geez, I need to get in. Let's go. Now, I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to treat them today. I mean, if I have time, I will. I may start something, right, to get them out of pain. I may just give them antibiotics and pain pills. Who knows? To buy me time. But either way, they just want to be seen. That's the barrier. So we got to understand, if we can't get somebody in for 3 or 4 days for a toothache, they're not going to wait around. If we can't get them in for 4 or 5 weeks for hygiene, they're not going to wait around. They might make an appointment with us, but then they're going to call around and find somebody, and then we wonder why we have so many no-shows. Right? They found another office sooner. They just didn't want to call us to let us know.
Right. So give it, again, you watch the data on this. A lot of people talk about the cliff. The cliff is 7 days between phone call and when they're seen in your office. Do you find that to be true, where their likelihood to accept dentistry or even show up greatly declines after 7 days? What's the optimal range that you see, or what do you suggest?
Definitely, I'd say 5 days is, for most people, is great, because usually they're impulse shoppers, right? They're actively searching because they have an active need in that moment, and they want to cross that thing off their list because they got 1,000 other things they got to get to. Right. So if they can go ahead and get this thing scheduled, get it done, now I don't have to worry about it for 6 more months. They would rather do that in a short amount of time. So I'd say, 3 to 5 days is optimal. The more days you add to it, the less likely they are to show up. I mean, it definitely correlates.
Right. So let me ask you this question, because this is going to come up. If you say, call today, get in today, Typically what type of an appointment is that? Is that a 30-minute meet and greet? Is that an hour-long appointment? How do you do that? And you might get 5-6 of those in a day, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's usually a 30-minute meet and greet. We'll take a quick x-ray. We'll see what the immediate need is. And again, sometimes if we have opening in the schedule, like a hygiene, somebody drops out of hygiene, they go into hygiene. Now I got somebody who can spend an hour with them if we need to, and I can actually get some work done on them if I have time. Or we'll do palliative care. Like I said, we can diagnose, go over the treatment plan, and set them up for the next day or the next day when it fits our schedule.
Right. So if they call today and get in today, you do something simple, maybe take a look, grab an x-ray. You're going to set up a comprehensive exam for somebody who might have significant restorative needs. Typically, a week or 2 weeks later? Is that what we're talking about?
It depends on your schedule.
Okay.
Again, you want to get them back as soon as possible. So sometimes it's the next day, right? Or a week later, depending on when the holes in your schedule are.
Right. Now, some people, when they hear the word capacity, they think of just expanding capacity to all hours. Can you speak to that? Because we see people on some of the coast, they're now opening their capacity to Saturdays and Sundays. And now there's practices that are actually in Texas that are open 24 hours a day. That's not what you're talking about, would you?
No, I mean, that's definitely one way to solve the problem. If you can't get somebody in a reasonable amount of time, you can add more doctors. If you can expand and add more chairs, that's another way to do it. Or you can expand your hours and days. That definitely expands your capacity. You could also focus your restorative care on larger treatment plans, bigger cases, more specialty type procedures that you can do in your office, which again will open up more holes in your schedule, right, to fit more patients in. So you can focus on bigger things, which actually frees up time in your schedule as well. So there's so many ways to tackle the capacity problem. It's just identifying that you have the problem.
Yeah, because some people think that, hey, look, this is a hammer and a nail, and the only way I can fix this is by being open to 7 p.m. every night because that's the only time patients want to come in, and that's not true. Now, I'm classically against just giving away your life to serve your business, but that's not what we're talking about either in this respect. I think it's important to understand, look, you have a capacity, you design your work day, your work week, fill your capacity, then play with all of these variables to make sure that you're maximizing capacity. And if it means adding another hygiene op to accommodate that within the hours that you work, it doesn't always mean be open all hours to get people in.
I mean, think about it. You got to figure, what's the average no-show rate in a dental practice on a daily basis, do you think? 1 or 2 people a day, maybe? I'd say on average, in the country. So there's your capacity right there. You have it. You just haven't seen it yet. So when people say call today, get in today, and they're going to call first thing in the morning, if I don't have a time right now, I just say, look, I'm going to put you on the call list as soon as the hole opens up, you're the first person I'm calling. Be ready.
Right.
And you call, hey, look, I got an opening at 11. Can you be here in 2 hours? I'm there. Okay, great.
Absolutely. And I think it's critically important that whoever answers your phone, they are aware and understand what you want when it comes to capacity as a dentist, and they understand your vision and you're on the same page. So let's go to number 7, which you're an expert on too. This is happening more and more and more. It's called membership programs. Now, you did this years ago with the wine and cheese, and you actually wrote a book on this.
I did.
And I was like, Chris, what is this? And you told me years ago, you're like, this is big. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Now I'm hearing about it everywhere. Tell us what a membership program is for a dental office.
Well, if you think about it, it goes back to the Costco business model, right? Most of us have heard of Costco, maybe even have a membership at Costco. Why, right?
I do.
Right, $55 to $110 a year to be a member. We have to pay for the rights to shop there. So wait, I have to pay you to give you my money? But we do, right? Why do we do that? Well, the idea is because we get better deals on things, right? Better discounts, whatever. Now, they may not have a large quantity of things, so a lot of selection, but if the products they do have, we're probably going to get a really good price because of the bulk buying. So there was an interesting study that they did comparing the shopping habits of people who shopped at Walmart versus Costco. So in essence, you can buy the same TV at Walmart and Costco. But at Walmart, I don't have to pay anything. I can just walk right in and pay for the TV and I'm done. But at Costco, I got to pay for the right to pay for that TV. So how are people spending, right? With no barrier versus a membership plan, if you will. And the study showed that people who have a membership plan, like Costco, on average spend 247% more per trip.
Wow.
Than those at Walmart.
That is huge. That's a lot.
So the mindset of people who have a membership plan is they spend more money. Why? Because they've committed to this idea. See, it all goes back to commitments and consistency, that I believe I have this membership plan, so I'm going to save more money. Therefore, I'm going to buy more of everything per trip as a result.
Yeah. Now tell us how you do this in your office, because you've actually gone after the retirees. 65% of that market does not have dental insurance, correct?
Well, I'd say out of the retirees, it's 90%. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, 65% of people across the United States do not have dental insurance, with the overwhelming majority of those being the retirees. So the idea is, my first wine and cheese event I did, it's like an educational seminar at the retirement community. So instead of trying to force them to come to me, reduce the barrier, I'm going to go to them, right? Which means I can get more in a room together. And, I had 60 people in the room, and I asked them, hey, how many of you have insurance? Or first I said, how many of you have been to the dental office in the last year? And only 10 out of the 60 raised their hand. And I was like, well, that's not good. Well, how many of you have dental insurance? And the 10 people who'd been to the dentist raised their hand. And I was like, okay. I think I'm getting it now. So then I said, well, how many of you would have gone had you had insurance? And the other 50 raised their hand. So that's when it hit me in that moment that that's the barrier. That's the mindset issue that's keeping these great patients from coming into our practice right now. That's why you don't see them. Yeah. Because they feel like, when they retired, the first thing they lost was their dental insurance plan. They don't have it. And they go to a scarcity mindset to where everything's an expense. And dental insurance, when you're paying on your own, is not cheap. In my area, it was like $600 a year for a policy. And so they think, well, I can't afford that because I'm on a fixed budget. But then they think, yeah, but I don't have insurance, so I can't go to the dentist unless it hurts or I'm in pain. That's their thought process. Even though that makes no sense to us, that's what they think. So that's the barrier. So my theory was, with the savings plan and this membership plan idea, if I get them over the price barrier for their preventative stuff, if I did find treatment that they needed, that they'd be more likely to move forward with it.
Right.
And that's what I did. And I priced my plan at $299 instead of $600, half the price of dental insurance, for 2 cleanings, 2 exams, x-rays, 2 fluoride desensitizing treatments a year, and a 10 or 15% discount off everything that we do. Just trying to keep it simple.
That's great. And is this the same thing? And you've answered this kind of, as I've had other people in other parts of the country describe this as their own in-house insurance program for their patients. Is this the same thing, membership insurance?
No, it's different. And that's a
different
thing. You have to make sure you state that on your promotional materials, on your brochures. This is not dental insurance.
Okay.
This is my own business's membership plan. And I would say for the majority of states, you can do that. And you can create your own. You can get people to help you with this. There's whole businesses created around it. In some states, it's the state views it like dental insurance, and they just want you to pay a licensing fee to register it. Okay. Well, you pay the licensing fee, and guess what? It's still worth it.
Right.
Again, this is one of the reasons how I was able to add $1 million a year in revenue to 2 of my practices 2 years in a row, was through the savings plan. So,
yeah, and I learned this from you too. When you look at this market, when the retirees that don't have dental insurance, I mean, think about the if you're placing and restoring implants, I mean, what a better market to speak to. Right. It's all about chewing. And that now the other thing that I learned from you too that's pretty cool, if you're thinking you're all smart and you're going to do a whole bunch of profiling on income levels in your marketplace, and you're like, I want to go after single family homes that generate this type of income, these people are not going to show up because they're not generating any income. You know what I mean? They're not making any income. They're living on income that they've saved. So they're not going to be even on the radar when you start marketing to those households. This is a unique, special opportunity that's right in your area all over the place.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that can really snowball to your benefit. It's one of those things where they're uncertain, right? They know they need dental care, but they don't know who to trust or where they should go. So what I noticed was when I would do these events once a month, I would get people, the early adapters would come try me out to see if it was the second barrier that they have, whether you realize it or not, is it sounds good, but what's the catch? And if people are uncertain, they don't say yes. They don't pick up the phone and call, right? If your advertisement breeds uncertainty or doubt, they don't pick up the phone. So these early adapters were like, it sounds good, but what's the catch? But they were willing to try me out. And they saw that there is no catch. I really made it simple. Great service, great value for a really good price. Okay. We're going to take care of you like nobody else will. And they went back and they spread the word to the masses. That's what grassroots marketing is. You tell a small group of people and they go tell everyone on your behalf. And then it just steamrolled. And then people would be coming in out of the woodwork saying, well, my neighbor said they had the savings plan. This is where I needed to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And what you just said is the whole deal right there, because grassroots marketing in a great private care practice is essential, because you're not going to be able to compete with the big DSOs on their budget, what they're doing. If you're a private care dentist and you're watching this and you want to grow practice long term, you're going to have to get a little creative or a lot creative and be better at the things that these others can't compete. And Chris, this is fantastic. So these 7 things I really feel are where everybody should put their energy. Once you've mastered these, now you can start to expand and create a budget for other things.
I mean, think about it. Imagine what 10 more new patients from each of these 7 topics will do for you. 70 more new people. I mean, and what does it really cost you to do any of those? Not a lot.
Nothing. Yeah. So this is awesome, buddy. Now, you have a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to highly recommend, if you haven't read Chris's book, read his book. You also have the Golden Goose. Tell us how that happened, the Golden Goose scheduling, and how people can find that. We put a link in the show notes.
Yeah. Well, it happened because, again, I think I've said this before. I don't go looking for a problem, but when I find one, I can't shake it until I figure it out. And I mean really figure it out and really come up with a solution to the problem. That's how the savings plan got developed. It's how I grew my practices the way I grew them. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
And so I'm looking at all my data from all my call tracker clients, and they have the same problem. They can't answer their telephone, and they're horrible at converting, right? And for most of it, it's not their fault. Okay? So what do? And I looked at all kinds of solutions. I thought, well, a call center would be the answer. It's better to have somebody answering your calls than no one, right? And surely they can't be that bad at scheduling if that's all they do all day. And so I went looking, and through my call tracking clients, I got a sneak peek at most of the major call centers out there. And I saw they weren't solving the problem either. They're not answering your new patient calls, and they're converting worse than your team. So I said, well, to really do this right, I think my team is going to be better trained in the science of influence, in my phone language stuff. I feel like we can help clients answer 100% of their new patient calls from marketing sources for sure. So money they paid for to get the phone to ring. Well, let's answer 100% of those. And my team should be able to convert as good, if not better, than their team in every case. And if we don't, then we review every one of those calls with my scheduling agents so they know how to learn better for your practice. And the end result is simple. We take over the phone lines for you, and we schedule them right into your patient system. So what difference can that make for somebody? So I've got a client in Tampa, spends $5,000 a month in marketing, was getting 9 new patients a month for that, for $5,000. You look at his data. Why? Well, he didn't answer 55% of his phone calls, and they only converted 37.5% when they did answer. Now that's how you get 9 new patients with $5,000 spent. So the first month we took over those new patient phone calls, we scheduled him 32 new patients.
Wow.
By month 4, we're averaging him 61 new patients a month. Same money spent. So from 9 to 61, right? Lost opportunity. But again, it's answering the phone and just being able better to convert and getting rid of those mindset barriers. So
absolutely, buddy. Well, I really appreciate this. And you and I, we talked about this before. Even when you're answering the phone, there's a lot of things that you can do to improve. You're going to see a lot of this in the next coming weeks on all of this stuff. And Chris, I'm just so grateful. I mean, this is great stuff. So stick around here for a second while we say goodbye to everybody else. But hey, if you're watching this and you found this valuable, please do me a favor and hit the share button. We'd love for you to share it with your friends and help this great profession that we love so much called dentistry. And keep sending us suggestions for things that you want to see on the show. We'll do our best to get them on in a timely fashion. So until we see you next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Kurt.